how to buy real estate with $20,000 to $40,000 in liquid cash, take no mortgage, so you're buying it outright. And this factors in from property tax, repairs, maintenance, vacancies, everything. You're gonna profit over $1,000 a month. That's the target goal, over $1,000 a month, meaning in 3 years, you're gonna double your money. Now you ask, John, what is this, like a REIT, or do I invest with someone? No, you own the property yourself. I'm simply gonna show you case studies. I'm gonna show you the specific properties that have done this, and I'm gonna show you how you can do it. And why I'm doing this is because I think right now as we step into a recession, times are gonna get a little harder for a lot of people. You know, we have 30,200,000 businesses in America. And the way that I see this is right now with this lockdown, this quarantine, and now with social distancing, this is going to affect a lot of businesses. And a lot of these business owners qualified for mortgages on rental properties and single family homes throughout the entire country when times were good. But now they're allowed less customers into their restaurants, into their stores, and it's going to affect their overall profit margins. I think a lot of these companies are going to potentially go under. A lot of them are going to go bankrupt. A lot of them are just going to close the doors, and people are going to try to move their business online. So as they try to move their business online, there's going to be a big opportunity for big tech and a lot of these other companies to try to streamline as many of these businesses as possible nationally and internationally. So I think we're going to see a really, really big change here. But if you're one of the new investors or a soon to become investor, I want you to become aware of certain areas that I think have a lot of potential for you, especially if you live in this specific area. If you live in this area, I want you to drive the neighborhood, see if you like it, but the returns are just absolutely incredible, like life-changing. You could basically take $100,000 in cash and retire and live a decent life. And you won't be able to do that anywhere else. Like you live in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, or Miami, any of these desirable locations, $100,000 will barely get you a down payment to a condo or to maybe a crummy little duplex somewhere. But this actually will probably lay you out with 4 or 5 properties, depending on if you want to establish debt or if you want to pay them all outright. If you paid them all outright, probably 3 properties cash, generating you roughly $4,000 a month in income. So $50,000 roughly per year. It's almost a teacher's salary. It's incredible. I live out in Los Angeles, and what I'm seeing right now is a lot of tenants not paying rent. A lot of them are not paying rent because they don't have to. Did you know in Los Angeles and San Francisco and New York, it's roughly 54% of gross income goes to rent. So a lot of these people work for companies, and these companies no longer working, so they're getting laid off, and they just don't have income coming in. So that being said, I think a lot of landlords are going to be struggling too, because not only is their business suffering, but now they're probably having tenant collection issues collecting rent. And so what I think is going to happen in these desirable locations is in 6 months, when courts open and tenants are trying to get back to work and get kind of everything flowing, get their money, landlords are going to try to evict tenants that haven't paid for good reason because they want to keep the properties. They don't want to default on their own mortgage payments. And the courts are going to become flooded. I mean flooded with evictions. And I think landlords are going to have a hard time collecting on all this back rent because, you know, if the tenant doesn't have the money, they don't have the money, and it's just going to be nearly impossible. So with that being said, I think these coastal cities are long-term going to do phenomenal. I think they're going to do really, really well. But I think you're going to need big money to step in there and become an investor in these locations. So if you have less money and you want to invest in places like New Jersey and Philadelphia and these locations, Baltimore, your money's able to go a lot further. But the key is it's ideal for you to live near the area. If possible, if you can live near there. I mean, ideally 20, 30 minutes, maybe an hour maximum. But this is where I'm really, really, really concentrated right now. And just because I know long term, the values are just going to become just incredible. I'm going to get the appreciation and the rents are going to continue to rise. And what I always look for in locations is the landlord-tenant laws. I look for density, job growth, and transportation. I look for a variety of things, and this checks most of the boxes. And you're buying these properties for so cheap, it is incredible. I go on Zillow for fun at night, and I just look at what's for rent in the area, and a lot of them are between $1,100 and $1,600. Then I look at the overall tax history, sales history, and they sold 6 months before, a year before, for as low as $12,000, $15,000, all the way up to $50,000. So it's just, if you actually put debt on these properties, meaning you just put $10,000 down and you took out a $10,000 mortgage, I mean, a $10,000 mortgage is probably going to feel like a phone bill. And then you have $1,200, $1,300, $1,500 a month in gross income coming in. Then you factor in for the property tax, repairs, vacancies. You factor in for everything, and you're left with a nice return for yourself. So with all that said, I'm going to show you just a few case studies to open your eyes to new perspectives, to new ideas. If you like what you see, smash the like button, consider subscribing, and I look forward to getting to know you. Drop any questions you have down here in the comments, and I'll answer everyone. Thanks so much, and now on to the case studies. I'm in New Jersey right now, which is just outside of Pennsylvania, south of New York. And right now, I'm in South Jersey. And the area that I'm going to be talking about specifically will be Gloucester City. There are numerous other areas hugging Philadelphia. Philadelphia is relatively expensive, so a lot of people are coming over to New Jersey and living there simply because it's just a lot cheaper. You can buy a house a lot cheaper than you could if you were living in, say, Philadelphia inside the city. So that being said, you have people living in Gloucester City, in Camden, in a dozen other rural towns around Gloucester City and Camden, and they're just commuting in. So what's interesting to me is the purchase prices of these properties in relation to the rents. So me living in California, if you were to buy a property for $500,000, then your rent in that same area would probably be around $2,000 or $2,500 in that zone. But if you were in Gloucester City, you buy a property for $30,000, you could rent a property for $1,200 or $1,300. So it's just a radical difference. So you essentially could, if you wanted to buy a property in Gloucester City for $30,000, you could and put $10,000 down, and your mortgage would probably be $100, $200 per month. And then the rest after you paying the property tax and repairs and factoring in for vacancies, you'd be left with a very large return. So I'm going to share with you several case studies. I'm going to show you the location and show you the strategy, show you exactly how to do this. So you can keep this in mind, because as this recession kicks in, a lot of people are going to be tight on cash. So I want to really put my information and education out there to help a lot of people that are, maybe living in this area now or not far from it, to where they can take this into consideration and see if this is a fit for them. So this is Philadelphia. Philadelphia is right here. And then you can see how far Gloucester is, how far Camden is in relation to Philadelphia. All right, so here is the area. Gloucester City is right there. Camden is just north of this. And then right over the Delaware River, you see Philadelphia. Now, what I think ultimately is going to happen here is what happened in North Jersey and New York, where they would take the ferry over to New York City and people would go over to North Jersey for affordability. Now, what's interesting to me is that in Philadelphia, Old City, for example, which is right next to the Ben Franklin Bridge off of 676 right here and 95, that says Spruce Street Harbor Park, that area, for you to buy a row home, you're looking at between $400,000 and $700,000 in Philadelphia. Now, if you were to live in Camden, which is not as desirable and not as attractive, it's not as safe. However, the price points are $10,000, $20,000, $30,000.
and they rent for between $900 and $1,300 in Camden. What I think is going to happen is there's going to be massive development. There's already billions and billions of dollars being invested alongside the waterfront here, but I believe there's going to be a ferry that is going to go from Camden to Philadelphia. I'd give it probably 5 or 10 years on the long end, probably sooner, when this gets developed and people start really investing heavily in the residential side. Right now, they're investing along the river, building out commercial apartments and entertainment and things of that nature. But I think people are going to live in Camden and take the ferry over to Philadelphia. I think that's going to be a big thing. But what I'm going to be teaching here now is Gloucester City. Gloucester City is a bit more safe. It's attractive. The property values are really, really low. And it's a 5-minute drive to the Ben Franklin Bridge. I went to high school in Gloucester City. I know this neighborhood so well. I lived in several neighborhoods just outside of Camden and Gloucester City. So this is kind of where I spent my childhood. So I have that competitive advantage. But I want to share this with you because if you live in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Delaware, you live in any of these East Coast areas, this could be something you might want to consider. But I'd recommend always getting a property near where you live. So if you live in Ohio, this might not make complete sense for you unless you had a great property manager or you knew someone you really, really trusted in this area. So how I think a great way for you to look at and find rental properties in your area in terms of pricing is you look to see who the low-cost provider is and how much they're charging for rent. So it's really quite simple. So how much a studio is renting for will kind of dictate and determine how much the one bedroom will rent for. And then that one bedroom is going to dictate and determine how much the two bedroom can rent for, and then how much the three bedroom can rent for, and so on and so forth. But as we step into what I believe is going to be a recession, I think there's going to be even more demand for affordable places to live. So in this area, this, in my opinion, is going to be the spot if you live, in this general zone. Because yes, the prices are very low now relative to how much they're renting for, but most of the property owners in this area are blue-collar workers. So that means that they either own a very small business or work for a very small business. But as we step into this recession and this market correction, I think these properties are going to even come further down in price. So could you imagine if you bought a property for $10,000 and you could rent it for $1,200 a month or something ludicrous like that? And I think that this is definitely possible. But even if it doesn't happen, all of these still can yield a 30% annual return, which is incredible. Especially if you live in a place like Los Angeles or San Francisco or New York City, you're getting 4%, 5% returns. So to go from 4 to 5% and then you go to 30%, it's just incredible, absolutely incredible. So as we step here, I'm going to show you on apartments.com exactly where this location is. So you have this property here on Cumberland for $1,250, Market Street for $1,450, Ridgeway for $1,600, King Street for $1,100. I'm going to show you the example for $850 to show you these are what the studio is renting for. Studio is for $850. Now, if you had a 3-bedroom house or a 2-bedroom house, getting $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 is more than reasonable. So this right here is the $850 a month studio. It's on Broadway, 204 North Broadway, 700 square feet. Deposits $1,265. So this is going to do really, really well, and this will likely rent quickly because people essentially going to be watching how they're spending their money as this market changes. So if this person here is renting for $850, I think it's very likely that him and maybe two of his friends or one of his friends would want to get a 2-bedroom for $1,200, and then rather than paying $850 each, they could each spend $600 and have their own spot and have a bigger place to live. And same with the 3-bedroom. If it's a 3-bedroom that everyone throws in $500. That's much more affordable. It's almost half the price as this studio, having their own studio. All right, so the first property is 216 Cumberland Street in Gloucester City. You look down to the bottom right, sold for $25,000 in August 23rd, 2019. So roughly 7 months ago. And renting for $12.50. They just listed it for rent last month. But the good thing about these properties is you can look at the finish below, carpet. It's pretty basic, pretty simple. You're not putting in high-end finishes, and the tenants aren't expecting that. So if the tenant spills something on the carpet, the kitchen gets destroyed, it's linoleum. I mean, it's just super easy, super affordable, and really just simple to fix. The tenants don't have the highest standards, so they're not expecting granite countertops and all these luxury amenities. They're simply just looking for an affordable place to live, good place to live. They want to pay the rent, and they want to live a good life. So you're helping them live a really good life at an affordable price. So at 216 Cumberland Street, Gloucester City, at $25,000, think about this. Property taxes are pretty expensive, though. This is the downside. Property taxes are about $300 roughly a month. So $300 a month, you may be spending, $3,500 a year, roughly $3,500 a year. So if you factor in for vacancies and repairs and property tax, I would consider maybe 2 months worth of total vacancy per year. 2 months total vacancy. So that would mean that the first year would be $12,500. So the second year would then be your entire investment back to $25,000. So how I would suggest you to structure your lease is in that lease I would have a 90-day or 60-day provision on the back end of the lease, meaning when the tenant is about to move out, they have to let you know, 30 or 60 or 90 days prior to moving out. And then what you then can do is list the property for lease and work on securing another tenant. So when that current tenant moves out, then you don't have that lapse in vacancy. There might be, a week or 2 weeks vacancy as you do some touch-ups, maybe a little touch-up paint or clean the carpets or whatever you want to do. But doing that then enables you to collect rent more often. So this is just an incredible, incredible return. 2 years, you get your entire money back and you own the property. So this is just one of them. This is 216 Cumberland Street, Gloucester City, 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,216 square feet. So the interesting thing is that when you go on Zillow and you start looking up these properties, you'll start to see that there's a ton of them. There's so many of them. And it's how you invest that really is going to determine your outlook and your success as a landlord. So yes, everyone wants to own the beautiful trophy properties. Everyone wants to, have that A-plus location. But you want to be careful with leveraging yourself. So why I'm sharing these properties specifically is that they're affordable, they're attainable. You don't need that much money to invest in them. So if you want to ultimately have that goal of owning a beautiful home or a beautiful rental property, I first suggest starting out in a area that you can afford to learn. Meaning if you're not so leveraged in a buy in a property to where if one thing goes wrong, you're in jeopardy of financial ruin. Now look at what's happening in California and in New York City right now. There's so many landlords that are leveraged, and now many of their tenants are unable to pay rent. So I think we're going to see a big crunch in those locations and a lot of inventory hitting the market. But if you're living in one of these areas here, this could be a great place for you to say, hey, you know what? I want to get 3 properties or 4 properties or 5 properties here over the next couple of years. And then once I have these properties, then I'll have the passive income from these properties to then go buy that property that I really want. And if anything happens with that property that I really, really strove to get, something that I really, really wanted to get, and I don't have, tenants aren't paying rent, I don't have a job, everything goes away, you still have the passive income from these rentals that's going to keep everything together, keep it all afloat. So this is an area that I would definitely suggest you to look into. What I love about this property, it has a really nice curb appeal. Love the windows. It just looks clean, looks great. But look at what that sold for. 2119 sold for $13,800. $13,800. They just changed some carpet. They did some simple things, but they relisted it for lease 2 weeks later for $1,100. So they bought it in February 1st, 2019, relisted it February 27th for $1,100. So essentially, if they leased it for 14 months, they would have gotten 15 months roughly. They would have gotten their entire purchase price back just in passive income and rent. And almost every year, they're getting their entire capital back, all their capital back. The property tax, they can write off the property tax as a deduction. Just another incredible investment. 245 3rd Street. If you're at a place right now to where you're questioning your career, you're questioning your job, and you want to become a real estate investor, but you don't know where to start, how to start, what you should be doing to find good deals, you should look into my mentorship program. It's extremely comprehensive. It's like one-on-one training, private Facebook community. You can DM me anytime on a private Instagram account. I review your deals and help you and train you and teach you everything that you need to know about real estate. Click the link in my bio, or you can just go to uofre.com. And I'd love to get to know you on a one-on-one level over there. But this is a really, really good deal. Another one in Gloucester City. And I'm going to just show you one more deal. And I think this essentially is going to paint the picture. But don't forget, there's a ton of locations scattered throughout the entire country where you can buy really good deals that make a lot of sense. And remember, I think that this is really important, especially at a time like today where people are questioning their careers. I mean, with social distancing, with everything that's happening, people are going to be questioning their careers, questioning the stability inside of their job, and they're going to be looking for ways to build out security. And this is the ultimate form of security. It's the investment that never stops giving. Like if you buy one of these properties today, in 20 years, it's still making money. It's making even more money than it is today. If you graduate from college, become an attorney today, and you start working, build up good business, and then you barely work at it, your business is slowly going to fade away and you'll have nothing to show for it from that business. And your offspring will not benefit from you having been an attorney or a doctor. However, your offspring will benefit from you having purchased one rental property or two rental properties throughout your life. You know, a really interesting way to look at it, I had a conversation with someone recently, and I said, you know, if you buy one property in LA, a fourplex we were talking about, and the property is $500,000, eventually those rents in this specific area that I was speaking with them about will probably get to that $4,000, $5,000 range. If you just look at how rents have climbed and changed over the last 15, 20 years, right now rents in a really good building are $3,500 to $4,000. So we're going to get there over time. But this one building will possibly generate you $15,000 a month in the near future. I mean, like 15, 20 years near future. Then that doctor's salary, you might be making $150,000 now, but come retirement time, you'll be in a better position than that doctor. And that doctor went to medical school, gained an education over 8 years and practiced and really beat down his craft for his entire life. And you'll ultimately end up being more financially free, and your family will have more to show from it, from you having purchased this one property. And it's just interesting to look at it from that perspective. And as I see we step into this upcoming recession, I think that this is going to be an opportunity for those that are prepared to make an absolute fortune. So I want you all to take that into consideration with how you're spending your time right now in this lockdown. I would be spending it learning and putting yourself in a position to become financially free. Because once you have that freedom, then you can do whatever you want, however you want, with whoever you want, and you don't have to really stress or worry about anything. And that's, in my opinion, that's living, that's life. And then you have 629 Market Street, Gloucester City, New Jersey. Look at the bottom right-hand side of the screen. July 18th, 2019. sold for $41,000. Think about that. People are buying cars, nice cars, for $40,000. And what do they get? They get a $600 car payment every single month. But then you have smart investors that see a $40,000 property and they're like, wow, I can rent it for $1,450 a month. If it wasn't for this coronavirus lockdown right now, I can almost guarantee that this would have rented at $1,500. Now it's at $1,450. There's not that many people that are going out looking for places to live with this lockdown. And there's not that many realtors and property managers that are going to go out there wanting to meet strangers and do property tours right now. So think about the former studio that I mentioned. It was renting for $850 per month. That's a studio. This is a 5-bedroom for $1,450. 5-bedroom for $1,450. You could essentially get a family in there. You could have 5 people live there, and everyone throw up, $400 each, and it would more than cover the entire place plus, HBO, and they would be living the dream for $400. So half the price as that studio. So with all that said, this is how you should be thinking. You shouldn't be thinking with the consumer mindset, in my opinion. In my opinion, you shouldn't be thinking about with the consumer mindset. You should think looking at everything as a way. Everything should be built around you being financially free, having a great strategy, having a great life, not being buckled down with expenses. What's interesting to me is we all know someone that lived through the Great Depression, and they went through that depression. They went through that really big recession. A lot of businesses went under, and it changed the way that they see the world. They look at things differently because of it. They were more frugal. They were better investors. They really paid attention to how they spent money. And it just, I think, ultimately built a unbreakable character in some of these people. And I think as we step into recessions, it changes the perspective of the consumer that was living above their means. So I hope this video helped, and hope it really kind of changed your perspective, or possibly you already had a really great mind frame about real estate investing, and you've been saving money for a while and you've been looking to get in, and that's amazing. So if that is you, consider this area. And if you have any questions, everyone that is watching this video probably has communicated with me in some way, shape, or form, either on Instagram or here. I respond to just about every single question and comment. So if there's anything I can do to help you, just drop it in the comments. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next video.